Hi, everyone. It's Rax, bringing you hopefully what will be a very valuable guide today. Today, I want to dive a little bit deeper on trading and how I use the trade site in order to really gear up all of my characters and find incredible deals where you can clear all content without spending too much currency. There's a bunch of different game modes in the game, but there is softcore trade and hardcore trade. And I think softcore trade alone makes up the vast majority of what people play. So hopefully this will apply to a lot of you. If you play SSF, my hat's off to you. I'm playing hardcore SSF right now. But this video probably won't be so helpful. Anyway, I thought the best way to teach you how to trade was actually just to do a bunch of examples after we've covered the basics. So we'll go over some different things and go over some different classes and problems that you might be encountering. And I'm going to show you, hopefully, a lot of ways that you can solve that with the trade site. One thing is I am not the world's greatest trader. I don't know everything. So if any of you guys are watching this and at the end you have a really critical hint that I missed, I'll pin the best one at the top and I'll throw a heart on a bunch of your guys's wisdom there so you guys can help others and myself learn at the same time. All right, well, let's get started. So let's start with the very basics. How do you trade? Well, there is a website. Here it is right here. And you can switch between the different game modes right here. And I'll put the link down below. But you will use this site to trade. By the way, I think, is this, okay, this is PoE2, right? Okay, I think we have the PoE2 site. Yeah, PoE2 standard. So you're going to go to the site, you're going to search, da-da-da-da-da. You might find an item that you like, and then you can whisper a person. When you click that whisper in the game, it's going to send them a message. Hey, I want to buy your mace for 3 exalts. They will invite you. You will accept it. You'll grab the 3 exalts out of your stash. You can see how organized my stash is. Then underneath their portrait here, when you're in their party, there's going to be a little swirly. Click it once you see that they're in a hideout or in a zone or something. Then you will be in their hideout. Remember, the person with the item, the person with the mace, opens the trade, not the person with the currency. And you might think, well, does that really matter? Yes. Because if I have the mace in my stash, okay, I'm trying to sell it, and I'm mapping, da 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 da. Okay, and then I get a whisper, I want to buy your mace, okay? When I port back to my hideout, I'm not the one who's essentially ready for the trade. The person who's buying has been looking at the site, they have the currency ready, they're ready to go. I was mapping. I need a moment to port to town. I got to go to my stash, find the tab, grab it. That's why the person with the item opens the trade. You put both the items in, you have to mouse over them, and then you hit accept, or you move over them with a controller, and you've done a trade. A key piece of information here. So when you are selling stuff, you need to have a premium tab. You would buy this at pathofexile.com. And you can get a premium quad tab, which is 4 tabs in one, which is going to have all of your items. Now, let me show you a way that a lot of people use to price their items. So first of all, when you have a premium tab, you can right-click it and you can make it public so people could see all the items. And then you have a couple of choices. You could either say each item is individually priced. You'd go through each of them and set your own price. Or you could put negotiable. I think almost nobody does this because we ain't got no time to negotiate. Or exact price for every item within this tab. So what a lot of people do is they have a couple of premium tabs or quad premium tabs. And they say, this originally started out for me as a base price of 5 exalts. And what I just started doing is anything that I thought was pretty decent, I just started vomiting it into this 5 exalt tab and just seeing if anybody wanted to buy it. A lot of times they won't buy it. You can see this tab is almost completely full, but sometimes they will. You never know, right? Then what I do, as the days pass and the items don't sell and it fills up, I just lower it, put it at 4, and then nobody wanted it. And so then I lowered it to 3, and then I started selling more and more things at that price point. A couple of things about this, like etiquette wise, is I think it's pretty toxic to throw something in here that you don't have any intention of selling. So I try to make it a point where if I throw something in here and it's been sitting and sitting and sitting, if someone messages me, unless I'm in the middle of the trial of suck my ass or something, I try to pour it out and initiate the trade, right? The most annoying thing about trade is people whisper you and then they don't whisper them back. So try not to be that person. If you actually have the item sell and you're there, try to actually sell it. Another thing is sometimes you'll throw something in there and maybe you don't know the value of it, and maybe it's like super good. You throw a hand of action and wisdom in here, it's actually worth 5 divine, and you threw it into the 3 exalt premium tab and you started a map. Well, what will happen, because, well, people will just be searching for it and there's bots everywhere. You'll just get 10,000 messages immediately. Oh, me, I want to buy it. Usually, if you get 10,000 whispers immediately, you have made a mistake. So what I would do is, again, not to be toxic, so you don't just leave it sitting there and everybody's whispering you, I port back to my hideout, I grab the item, and then I move it out of that tab, and then I think it helps to actually change zones, put it in some other tab, and then change zones. Go back into your map or do something, and that should hopefully unlist it off of the auction house. So you can set up different tabs. You can set up 5 exalts, 10 exalts, and then you could put valuables. And anything that's really, really good that you might want to set this at individually price each item yourself. And then you would right click an item and then you would set it. I actually forgot that I even had this. Oh yeah, I got this on, what was it? The one time I killed the pinnacle boss and then I valved it and I bricked it. I don't think this is worth 2 divine anymore. That's probably why it hasn't sold. But anyway, you can just right click the item and just set it at whatever price. And then if it doesn't sell, you can lower it to 1 and see if someone will buy it. Pretty easy. So that's just one of the basic things on how do you actually sell something with the premium tab. And then you can set the buyouts at the top. Try to actually sell it when they message you. That way people get so upset when they whisper you and then they aren't available. And then if you misprice something, it's going to happen. If you get a million whispers, you probably mispriced it. Move it immediately so you aren't hounding people with your really cheap items because people think people are trying to debate you, but sometimes you just make an honest mistake. Okay, so now I want to show you a rule that I actually learned from Palsteron. If you don't know who Palsteron is, he's a godly PoE1 and a PoE2 content creator. Let's say you're going to get anything. Let's say you're going to get a mace. And let's say the only thing that I care about is it needs to do 100 damage, and you search. Whenever you see a search that has 10,000 matched, you messed up. Because it means that there's more than 10,000 out there, and it's just going to show you 10,000 of them. We don't want to be limited by the 10,000 that grinding your games just happen to choose for us. We need to make sure that this number is lower than 10,000 so we are seeing exactly what we're looking for. So the way that you fix it is you just make your search a little bit more narrow. What if I make it 200 and I search? 9,848. Perfect. There we go. And now the search is much better. I'm going to use this little thing to make sure that I haven't missed anything here. So the first thing I like to talk to you about is on the left side here, some of the basic filters and how I use them. I could literally go here, box by box, input by input, but you can read. And I just want to tell you some of the basic things, some of the things that I use a lot. So item category is pretty critical. Like, for example, if you need a new chest piece, you would search for body armor. Okay. This one's used quite often. And instead of body armor, you could actually type the exact one that you're looking for. and what is it called? Expert. And then if you know the implicit, for example, that you want on the item or the specific one that's best in slot for you, you could pick the exact one and it will only search for these. Item rarity, you could use some tricky things like this. Like if you want to look for a magic jewel that someone hasn't already regaled and get it for cheaper, you could use something like that. But essentially, what I usually use this for is to make it like rare or non-unique. So I get only rares that people have crafted. Item level, we know this is Elon Musk's favorite stat. I think this would be important for certain crafting, but I don't really use this too often. Item quality, if you want to skip the qualitying, but usually in Path of Exile 2, it's pretty easy just to quality it yourself. Now, the equipment filters are actually very, very cute in ways that you can use them. I think a lot of this would make sense to you. You set a minimum damage number, a minimum crit chance, a minimum level of armor, a minimum level of energy shield and spirit. It's pretty self-explanatory, right? But there are some really cutie patootie things you could do with this. For example, let's say there is a quarterstaff that you really, really want to get, like an expert quarterstaff, and you're looking for it to have an attack speed roll. One way you could look for the attack speed roll is to go over here and just literally add attack speed to it. But if you know the exact quarterstaff that you want, you could just set a minimum of attacks per second of 0.01 higher than the base. And that will mean it always has some level of attack speed to it. For example, let's say the attacks are 1.1 for the staff that you're looking for. Just add another 1. Now, one way or another, it's going to have some attack speed attached to it. It's kind of a clever little way to find an attack speed roll without actually literally adding the affix. Another thing that you can do is, as we're going to see later in an example for the monk, it is really good to get a hybrid chest piece that has both energy shield and evasion. One thing you can do very simply is just put the minimum evasion and energy shield at 1, and that will already essentially take care of getting you the right base. So something like that is another trick that you can do. Anything else that I want to specifically say here? Sometimes in a certain build, you will specifically care about what kind of damage that you're doing. If you really want the physical DPS to be high, you would put your minimum here. If the minimum is 300, you'd search here. If you don't mind having a mixture, then instead you could put it in damage per second or damage if you don't care if there are certain elements. Or maybe there's a specific element that you're looking for. You could go and maybe add the flat fire right in here if you were trying to like ignite or something. This is probably the thing that I mess up the most. I get into a hurry and I screw this up all the time. If you don't put the max level of the level that you currently are, well, you might get something that's way higher than what you can actually use. So if you're level 65, maybe you're about to ding 66, then here you could put 66 right here and buy it. I forget this all the time. Another thing that I mess up all the time is, I'll just put the max at 66 and search, but I don't really have that much intelligence. And if you don't set your filters the right way, you might actually buy something that requires so much int that you can't buy it. So you could put in a maximum of the attributes that you have, or maybe just like 5 or 10 higher if you don't mind respecking a few attribute points in order to find something. I don't use these hardly at all. If you're going to do some crafting on it, you could pick Corrupted as no, so you can slam a Val Orb into it. My friend actually slammed a Val Orb into an Ingenuity belt this morning, and it was 10 divines, and I think he sold it for 350. He made 340 divines in one Val Orb because it like divined it and it made it perfect or something. It was insane. So that's about all I use there. I don't use this too often. And then I use this bottom thing all the time. And this is where you set kind of the currency that you're looking for, and you set a maximum. You say, I don't want to spend more than 5 exalts. We will do this all the time to get a really awesome deal on our gear. Okay, and then the basic things over here is you'll add stat filters, and we'll be messing with this a lot as we go into our examples, which we are going to do right now. So let's pretend we're a 30 warrior and we do no damage. This is expected. Warriors suck. The real solution is just to reroll. No, I'm just kidding. Well, actually, I'm being serious. But okay, let's pretend we want to get. We need to improve our damage. Well, the most logical thing there is you probably have a bad weapon. Doesn't do much damage on it, right? So let's combine what we've learned and let's find a super awesome weapon that we can use with our warrior. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go for a two-handed mace. We're going to give them the big old bonk. Next thing I'm going to do under level is set the maximum at 30 because I'm level 30. If you can stomach it for another 2 levels, let's say, okay, if you got something godly for me at 32, then maybe I can hold off if there's a much better deal. Now, you are not going to have much money if you're level 30. You might be pretty broke. You do usually need to have at least 1 exalt by level 30. I just did a hardcore run at level 30 SSF. I think I found maybe 7 exalts by now. You want to save some exalts so you can use them on the trade site. But let's just set the max to 1. That's all we got. And then let's just say we just go with that. Two-handed mace, max required level 32 for 1 exalt. If we search, 10,000 matched, absolutely unacceptable. We're out. So we messed up. We go back. Let's say we set the damage minimum at 100. We just want this number to be less than 10,000. Okay, 554. Now, what you can do, if you really only want physical DPS, you could sort by this. But if you don't mind getting some of the other elements, you could click this and it's going to sort by the damage. This is a 212 damage mace that you could buy for 1 exalt. Another thing that I'm looking at here, this person is online. We would click this button to message them, and they listed it 3 hours ago. This is a good thing. If you see the item was listed pretty recently, the odds of you actually getting them to whisper you back is very high. If you see one listed 2 weeks ago, the odds of you clicking the whisper button and them being there is pretty low. So we look at this one and we say, wow, this is a killer deal. This mace is just so much better than mine. The thing you might notice, though, is a lot of its damage is coming from elemental. Maybe these elements don't exactly align with your build. You say, I don't really know if I want this one. You could sort by physical DPS instead. We have almost the same total DPS, but almost all of it now comes from physical. You could say, you want to know what? I really, really like the damage here, but I'm currently using a 1.2 mace, and I just can't stand how slow it is. Go to attacks per second, 1.21. Make it 1 higher. That's going to mean that if it's this base, it's going to have to roll with some attack speed, right? To get higher. Then we sort by physical DPS. And here we have a very, very high damage roll that's going to attack very fast. Or let's say you're really, really struggling on intelligence, and you normally wouldn't want to get attributes, I think, on your weapon, but you say, I want it to have attack speed and I want it to have some intelligence on it. Let's say I want 10 and search. Okay, none found. So that's not good. This happens when you're searching. You're searching for something and you don't have it. It's going to happen all the time. I wonder, can intelligence even roll on maces? What if we did strength? Strength might make more sense. Search. Okay, strength is there. 20 results, just for fun. Let's see if I remove this and put intelligence. And if I removed the damage requirement and the attack speed. Does this exist? It doesn't exist at all. My conclusion here is either I'm grabbing the wrong stat or intelligence just straight up doesn't roll on maces. What about dexterity? Nope, it's strength only. So I guess that makes sense. Anyway, the idea there, and by the way, that's a good thing to see. I'm actually really glad that happened. Sometimes what you do on the trade thing, it doesn't work. And then you learn something. Oh, well, did I type the wrong intelligence, or does intelligence not even roll on it? Maybe it's only strength because it seems like it's a strength archetype. Don't be frustrated if you punch everything in and you get no results. Go step by step by step and try to see what's the thing that's actually messing this up and why isn't this working. It will help you. So there's an example for one exalt, probably doubling or tripling your warrior's damage with a basic filter. All right, let's do another example. Let's say we're following the Eye Strike monk guide, and let's say we're a 60 monk and we just don't have the spirit that we need in order to do the guide. You see, Rax, you have so much spirit and you're taking all these spirit gems. I only have the 100 from the campaign and I have no idea how to fix this. I'm going to show you. So in the game, in your ascension, there is this node, Lead Me Through Grace. 1 spirit for every 6 energy shield on your body armor. 1 spirit for every 15 evasion rating on that body armor. So from the guide, that's why it's very good to get a hybrid body armor with very high evasion and energy shield. Let's buy it on the trade site for almost nothing. Let's clear this out. Body armor. Now we're level 60. Maybe we could suffer through 62 for a really good deal. Let's put our energy shield minimum at 200, and the evasion is going to be higher. Let's put the evasion at 400. Let's go exalts, and maybe you have a few more. Maybe you have 10 to your name. Remember, if you put 10 exalts here, that does not mean that you have to spend 10 exalts. It just means we're going to look at what are the greatest armors out there. Sometimes it's willing to put almost your entire bankroll as the max buyout, even if you don't plan on spending it, because you might find the deal of the century. You might find a body armor that might actually be worth 5 divines if you would have only have expanded your search. So even if you only plan to spend 5, sometimes it's good to search for 10. Let's take a look here and make sure it's not 10,000. It's less than 10,000, so we're good. First trivia question that I have for you. I put the minimum energy shield at 200, and yet it showed me this one with 177. Why? That's because at the bottom, I believe this is if you quality it, and qualitying in this game is very cheap. You just use an armor scrap, quality it, it will be this high. Another thing to consider is sometimes you'll be searching and they will have socketed it a certain way with certain resistances, or maybe they increase the energy shield and the evasion already with the sockets. It's another thing to consider. If it doesn't have those in there, then you could add it yourself, it would be even higher. Or you could add the missing resistance that you need. Okay, so this is only 1 exalt. That's cheap. That's nice. And you might be thinking, all right, well, how exactly would I narrow this down to get the best possible deal? Well, let's start with our old trick. Let's start with the highest energy shield possible. One thing I noticed is this is corrupted, so we're not changing this ever again. This is how it is. And this is going to have a 300 energy shield, and it's going to have the 2 sockets. It does cost us our full 10. 3 days ago, might not even be available. And look at the extra things that you're getting besides what you're searching for. You're getting 25 dex. Okay, that seems fairly helpful for a monk. We're going to need probably a lot of dex to wear our gear. And now, when we're starting to narrow this down, there's a couple of options. We could either make it cheaper if we don't think that this 10 exalt thing is that good of a deal. By the way, the very next one is only 2 exalts. That's insane. So we got it 5 times cheaper. But you can start thinking a little bit more about your actual character. If this is the only piece that you're replacing, take a look at your resistances. Is your lightning res really low? You might want to add lightning res as an affix. Or you might be looking at the guide and saying, I don't want to buy a new armor for a long time, and it looks like the goal is to go chaos inoculation, which means your life is always 1 no matter what, and you're immune to chaos damage. If that was true, then, and you can stay alive right now without the life or the chaos res, it would be kind of dumb to search for an armor that has life or chaos res on it, because those would be dead stats. So one way that you might filter this is you might say not life and not chaos res. We had 1,700 results, and now we have 700 results. And you see there is no life and there is no chaos res on any of these items. Another thing to consider is this item right here. First of all, it only costs 1 exalt. It's cheap. It only has 4 stats here. So whenever you see something that doesn't have that has a couple of open slots, when you get this, you could put 2 extra exalts in it and try to hit a miracle. This is actually how a lot of crafters do certain things. A lot of crafters will buy a base with only a couple of good stats and just pray and YOLO some exalts in there. If they hit the right prefix, if they hit the percent fizz, if they hit the additional arrow, if they hit the chaos res, if they hit the 35 movement speed, then they're rich. So a lot of things to consider when you're looking at an item. Let's go ahead and sort by energy shield again, and it brought back up, of course, the same one that we were just looking at. But this one looks pretty good. This one only costs 2 exalts. It's only 2. And then you'd save 8 exalts for something else. Is a really good deal. Let's say the real thing that's bothering you, the thing that's just killing you, is lightning damage. Your lightning res is terrible. So we just go lightning res, and we say we want a pretty chonky lightning res on there. We want at least 20. Okay. And then let's, again, pick the highest energy shield with this chonky lightning res. Look, it's the same price. It's the same price, 2 exalts. It's got 31 lightning res, and it's got the 22 dex. It's got 29 life. That's going to be a dead stat for you later, but it's good for you now. This is a godly buy. So that would solve your monk problems. Now let's go for some higher end buying. Let's say you're a knighty ranger. You're looking for a godly bow, and you're looking for some lightning resistance. Okay. First of all, we probably don't want lightning resistance on our bow. This is like an end game character, right? So our level requirement thing is not going to help us anymore. We don't need that. By the way, okay, it was 62, so we're going to have to suffer for 2 levels on our monk. So we're going to buy a bow. Now, if this is going to be your end game bow, again, maybe you decide, I am only going to buy an expert dual string bow. This is you want to know what? Honestly, I'm not even sure that I would recommend this, because although expert dual string, when you search, if we just search for this, dual string has an implicit, which means it's a stat that's always on it. It just means it fires an additional arrow. This is a godly stat that you're looking for. And expert is the best version of a dual string bow. There's regular dual string, then there's advanced, and then there's finally expert that we're looking at. But I have seen some advanced dual string bows roll so insanely well that I think you're actually hurting yourself by limiting yourself to just this base. So we will get rid of this. We don't care about it being an expert dual string bow. But what we can do instead is we can go over here and go implicit. And on the implicit, we can say, let's just say, what if I just type arrow? Not enchant, in implicit. The bows fire an additional arrow. And now we can also get advanced dual strings, and that's going to help us. Okay, so now we're only looking for the bows that have an implicit of bows fire additional arrows. And let's say we want it to do pure physical damage. So we're going to go pure fizz, and we've been saving up. We're 90. We've been using the same bow since we're like level 60. We're going to make a purchase here. So we're going to go, let's say at least I don't know what the number is. Let's just try 400 Fizz DPS. And now let's get some things on there that we really, really want. And this is going to start to get expensive. Let's say we want attack speed. Okay, and there's 2 attack speeds, so this might already be the wrong one. We can search and see if results come up. Okay, we're already at 138, so we've already narrowed it down tremendously. So maybe we actually just stop right there with only 138 choices, and we start to take a look here. Let's say we've farmed 10 divines. That's all we have. Search. There's 9 choices. Okay. Remember, if we had filtered out advanced dual string, we would have lost 1. Okay, I guess we would have only lost 1 choice. So not the biggest, not the greatest example, but we would have lost one of our 9 choices. Now we honestly just take a look. I didn't honestly expect this to narrow it down this fast, but here we are. So maybe the really important thing to you is the attack speed. You want it to be extremely high, so you could filter by this. This one has 19% attack speed. You could compare that with the Fizz DPS as well. Maybe you're playing a crit build, maybe you aren't. If you aren't, maybe you say this is a dead stat and this costs me all 10 of my divine. Can I get one that doesn't have crit that's cheaper? This one is cheaper. It has about the same Fizz DPS, but it's missing the crit. But these 2 things aren't so great anyway. The only way this would be good is if you're having trouble getting your dex high enough to wear it. Now, the thing is, you have to be level 78 to wear it, but we're 90, so that's okay. And you just kind of look through here, and maybe you say, geez, you want to know what? This is too rich for my blood. Maybe we can lower it significantly and get a much cheaper deal. What if I went for 350? Then how does this open this up? I went from 9 results to 137. I went from 8 divine minimum to 1, 8 times cheaper. These are the things that I did on almost every single piece of gear on all 6 of the characters that I had. I always was just finagling this just a little bit to get an 8 times cheaper bow. It's worse, but it does have the attack speed. It does have pretty good DPS, and you save 7 or 8 divines. That's why I never spent more than a couple of divines for any item, and why I'm sitting here with another just 21 divines sitting here if I ever wanted to make a super, super major purchase. But you can see the options for here open up drastically. So maybe we can narrow this down and say, you want to know what? Now that I know I can get a really good bow for cheap, maybe let's put it at 2 divines. Now we're down to 19 again. Let's say I want godly attack speed. This one has about 50 less DPS than that 10 divine one that we looked at, but the attack speed is so much greater. And it even has the attribute reduced in case you're having trouble getting your dex. So this is just an example of how we found a really good bow and we had something in mind, but we're like, it's going to kind of bankrupt me. We change it just a little bit in order to pay 1. Okay, and this guy posted it 9 minutes ago. He might have been using it for a long time, and now he's ready to sell it because he finally got a major upgrade. 1 divine for this bow, if your bow does like half of the DPS or attacks way slower, is a god tier upgrade and a god tier buy. Okay. Now let's go to something else. Let's make it much more general. I actually think this is going to be the most fun one. Let's say you're just starting out maps and your gear blows. Like all of your gear sucks. I want to show you how to find something really, really nice with the trade site. So let's say you're building out your character and the first thing that you notice is your boots suck. Your boots have like 20 movement speed on them, but it's got like no life and shitty resistances, and they're just doing nothing for you other than providing the movement speed. Boots. Now, I really want you to pay attention to this. This is going to be absolutely beautiful. Okay, level 60. And let's say we're only going to spend 3 exalts on the boots. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the mandatory stats. I don't want you to skip this in any way. So the movement speed is mandatory. I'm not going to play without it. And let's say it's 20. I want 20 movement speed no matter what. If you want to be picky, you can put 25. Now we're going to do one of my favorite things ever. And this is how I get such good gear for cheap. Weighted sum V2. Now this is really, really easy. All you do is add the stats that would be valuable to you and give them a weight relative to each other. And then you can sort by which one gives you the highest value for the money. If what I just said didn't make any sense, it's going to make perfect sense in a second. So, for example, on the boots, the resistances are really good. Lightning res, fire res, cold res, put them all. Anything that's good. Fire res, chaos res, okay? Life would be good, okay? Those are the really nice stats. Now, I believe it counts 1 to 1. So on a life on boots, you get like 150 life, but you only get like 35 cold res, right? So it's probably better to get really good resistances than it is to get life. And chaos res is even more rare than the other ones. So if I give life a weight of 1, maybe I give these 3 resistances a weight of 3, and I give chaos res a weight of 5. Okay? Search. There's 10,000 boots. Unacceptable. Go back to the filter. 10,000? No. Go back. So now let's say I don't want you to show me any boots that don't have a total weight of 100. Search. 10,000. Okay, we're about to get some really good boots here. 150. 5,000. Now watch this. Sort by your sum. Boom. These pair of boots, by the parameters that you have given it, okay, these parameters, when it looks at all of these stats, have a weight of 337 of stats that you want. When you do this, look at how beautiful these boots are. 25 movement speed, 167 life, even has 121 mana, and it's got 2 super chonky resistances for 3 exalts. Look at those boots. Look at those boots. They're so nice. These are 2. 320, 327. And look how godly they are. Let's take the same example. Let's go up here and say, no, I want 25 movement speed, and I have like 100 cold res. I don't need cold res. Cross it out. Search. Here we go. Sort by sum. 25 movement speed, 100 life, and 2 of the other resistances that you don't have. Then you say, oh, wait a minute. I really need it to be, I need it to have a lot of energy shield. Okay, we'll put energy shield on it, no problem. Boom. Maybe you sort by energy shield. I think what I would do here instead, since we're going for the stats, just set whatever minimum you're okay with. Let's say I'm good with 100 minimum, no matter what. Okay, search, and now sort by sum. When you quality it, it will go to 115. It's got lightning res. Wait, didn't we take off? It just so happens to have cold res. Okay, we didn't search for it. It just magically has it on there. And there we are. I mean, look at these. These have 123 life on them. Okay? These, look at these. These are missing some affixes. So you could slam 2 exalts on here and maybe hit the greatest boots. This is for 1 exalt. You could spend the 2 slamming it in there, and if you hit really chunky resistances, you just made the greatest pair of boots ever for 1 exalt plus the 2 that you slammed into it. Okay? So the most important thing here are the concepts. You picked the stats that are important to you. You assign them some kind of weight that makes any kind of sense. And then you search and you sort by the weight here, and it's going to show you items that have really, really nice stats based upon how you have assigned them. Let's do one more example. Let's take a different item. Let's take gloves. Okay, we're going to do gloves. Let's say we're playing an evasion base. Let's say we set the evasion at, I don't know, 80. And what do we want on them? Well, let's say we have very low chaos res. Let's say, I don't know, we're missing 28 fire res to be capped. And then let's go from there. So we need chaos res. Let's say I want at least 10. And let's go fire res. And I would really like to get capped here, and I need 28. Say I'm a cheap ass, and I only got 5 exalts in search. There's 335 choices. From here, you could start to look around and see what you would be looking for. Another super cutie patootie thing that you can do is you can click this little magnifying glass with the books here. And if you click it, it's going to pull up all of the stats that are on this particular item. You say, oh, I really want stuff with physical damage to attacks. That's really good. Okay. I get rid of that and this and that. Now I've got physical damage to attacks on there. Search. And now we've got 100. Now, how do we narrow this down more? Well, you could sort by the physical damage to attacks. Okay, this is accuracy and very chunky everything. That's beautiful. It costs 1 exalt, by the way. So that's the deal of the century. And at a certain point, you can actually just start kind of looking. Well, this one gives me 130 armor for free over this one that I'm going to be missing. And it has 2 more chaos, 1 more fire res, and it's got roughly the same fizz damage, 2 on the minimum, 3 down on the maximum, but it also gives me 101 mana. But you could also look at this one and say, well, but this one has, it looks like an open prefix or suffix that you can slam an exalt into. So at this point, you can kind of have some fun looking through. You can be more picky. Look at these gloves. Look at these gloves. They have the 3 stats that you're looking for with a super high evasion base. You want to roll the dice, buy it, and slam 3 exalts in there. You might make the greatest pair of gloves ever. I mean, we only live once, right? Let's say, no, the thing that you're really looking for is the chaos res. Sort by chaos res. 27 chaos res on these gloves, but the physical damage is almost non-existent. So this one is a happy medium. This one has the chonky chaos res with much better physical damage, but it's 5 times as expensive. You can make the decision here, but I just want to empower you and show you some of the thought processes that you might have. And when you get pretty good at this, you can actually find some really, really nice stuff for something that's definitely within your budget. That's a hell of a lot better than yours. But probably the most important thing here is to understand that it can just solve your problems for you. When you're missing a certain resistance and you can identify one piece of gear that's very bad, like your helmet, you can go in here and say, okay, the basic parameters of my helmet are this. I absolutely must have chaos res. And then you can do my favorite little trick, the weighted sum, and then put all the other stats on there that you would love to have, give them a weight, and then sort by the weight at the bottom. So I am 100% sure that this video has not encapsulated everything about trading. I am sure that there's a lot of other awesome examples that I could have shown you, or the other people are going to have hints and tips and tricks. But this basic idea, I'm hoping, was very helpful for you to say, okay, at least I have a basic idea of how to pick the category, how to pick some basic filters here for my level and the armor that I'm looking for and the DPS, setting a max price and kind of dicking around a little bit with the stats and maybe with the weighted sum, and then filtering by sorting by the stat that you care about the most, and then finding a really good price, whispering, going there, and initiating the trade. I am 100% sure if you're playing softcore trade and maybe hardcore trade as well, this is the most valuable tool that you could ever have to getting strong. It's not making a good build. It's not running T15 maps all day. It's once you're done playing, how do you sell the stuff that you have found, and how do you buy the stuff that you really need. If you're really good at that, you will be way more powerful in this game. Well, that wraps up the trading video, guys. I really hope that these hints have helped you. Let me know if you guys have any questions. If you have some godly hints, please post them down below, and I'll heart a bunch of them. I'll pin a godly suggestion to the top. I'm 100% sure you guys are going to know some things that I don't, and maybe you even have some corrections for me. But I have used this basic strategy to gear 6 characters, and all 6 of them, I guess I haven't tried on my warrior yet, because the warrior is a pain, but all 6 of them can easily do T15 maps on what I would consider a budget. And you can do the same thing too. Hope this helped you. Many more guides are coming. Thank you.